Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of Brace for Impact. I am here joined by Benikage, of course, and oh my gosh, do we have so many things to talk about. But I think the first thing we should go over is what is this, Benny?
This is a podcast about women's Counter Strike. It's called Brace for Impact, and we're here to talk all things women Counter Strike because that's what you and I cover, and it's a big passion for me. I know it's a passion for you as well. So, yeah, it's a basically a podcast going over women's Counter Strike, and just in every really page, I should say, or every kind
Every
of
corner.
yeah,
We
really.
grab
So,
everything.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a lot that we want to go over. I think in the first, we're kind of keeping it a little bit simpler the first time around here. We're going to be going over kind of the regional stuff between all of ESL Impact, which is going on. We'll have a bit of explaining on that as well, because that's a huge thing in this last year specifically. There's also other tournaments that are going to be happening hopefully in the future that we'll love to cover. We'll love to do like interviews. We'll love to do little bits and pieces on teams. So we're gonna cover it all. It's all gonna be here, and we're gonna do it starting bi-weekly for now. We'll kind of push on from there. So, what are we looking at this week, Benny?
Well, we're looking at we're almost at the halfway point for the Impact League, for the league itself. That third week starts tomorrow as of the recording of this. Hi y'all, it's Wednesday, but it's a good measuring stick because it's a double round robin league, and everybody would have at least played each other once in a best of three. So it's a very good measuring stick as to where you are as a team and what you need to focus on going into the second half of the season.
Yeah, at this point in the ESL Impact League, as of Thursday, Friday, which are the next 2 days, every team will have played everybody in their group. Of course, it's an 8-team league for each region. You play each of your competitors twice. The best two ranks go on to play in a playoff. The winner of in each of those groups you have top four essentially. They'll play a playoff versus each other. I think maybe there's some cross play. I don't
It's
know.
it's the winner versus the runners up.
There you go. So
So
it's diagonal. Um,
A1 versus B2, B1 versus A2.
Exactly. And then the two winners, at least in NA, EU, and South America, will go on to face at the LAN in DreamHack Winter, which is I believe is in Jokoping, Sweden. And that's gonna come up faster than you think.
Yeah. Well, you've got Yoka Ping. We've got the original Ping, by the way. In LCA broadcasting.
Yeah.
We
Shout
got
out
Ping CSGO.
shout out
Shout
to
out to
Ping.
Ping.
Shout out to
A
Ping.
legend.
He does too much.
Yeah.
As well as the ESL Impact League, of course. So we do have the Cash Cups that are kind of under the same umbrella. You have the ESL Impact Cash Cups. I believe there's 4 every season. There's 2 every month. So even though it was
Yeah,
September,
there've been some that's like there's five,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's four or five.
yeah,
They're supposed to be bi-weekly cash cups, so
exactly. Even though right now for some reason we have one week after the other because of timing and qualifiers and ESL
yeah,
Impact League.
the
It's
shout out to ESL have actually been very helpful in like rescheduling around different events, especially considering all the different regions. Like Brazil plays a ton of tournaments, so if there's other tournaments going on or big qualifiers, ESL have definitely moved cash cups around for them. Same with South Africa when they had like Gamer Girl Pro Festival in Cape Town. They've gladly moved events around. So
when they
uh,
have load shedding.
when they have to, yeah, don't even get me started, man. You're pushing a nerve on that
Oh,
one.
I
And
push
I don't
every
even live in
single
the
one.
country, but yeah, no, it's you're right. It's shout out to them because they've been very helpful in moving around the cash cups to fit everyone's availability.
Yeah, and I mean that's one of the great parts is because it's a newer thing. There's no set in stone anything. So they have the guidelines of what they want to do. They want 2 cash cups a month, so they're going to do their best to accommodate to that. Sometimes when for example the qualifiers came up to qualify into ESL Impact League, they held off on the cash cups because they were like, okay, we know that these weekends or this weekend specifically is going to be dedicated to one of the qualifiers, and as a result, we don't want there to be some kind of like, oh, we know we just played Cash Cup and we now we have to go and play ESL Impact qualifiers. It didn't make sense, so they held off, and that's why they kind of waited a little bit later. And then of course you get the funny naming conventions where even in the middle of September it was Cash Cup number 4.
Yeah, yeah. But it's all good. It's better that they've moved this around to get as many competitions as possible and teams as possible. They're even experimenting now with the start times to see if it ups the availability for teams. So always willing to experiment, I think is a good thing. So, big props on that end.
So then, with that, that's season 2 specifically, and I know season 3 is going to be next year. That's what we're hoping for. There's not been an official word. It was kind of just, here's your year, season 1 and season 2. There's going to be a break in here for the player stuff. Um, what are we kind of looking towards? I guess when season 3 comes around, like it's early days yet because it's the middle of season
Yeah.
2. But what's kind of expected? I guess as season 3.
I don't know. I don't know if I mean, I don't know what's expected in terms of the actual league itself.
Yeah,
Um I think it would be good to see if you could expand regions, maybe bring in another region. South Africa does turn over a lot of players in teams, and we talked about this before, even on Twitter. Like, why does it seem like roster moves happen more in South Africa than elsewhere? And it's like, well, it's a smaller region, the player pool's smaller, so player changes usually affect more than one team, and there's a whole multitude of different angles you can take. But with the player base down there, you could probably make a league of like 5, 6 teams. And, if you, even if it's a smaller league where it's like, if you give them one spot,
yeah,
right, you can make a 4-team league and be like, okay, instead of running 2 groups of 4, here's one group of 4, and the top 2 will play each other in one final best of 3 or something like that, where you can expand. And the crazy thing about it is, if you go back in the history of the Cash Cups that we've had 16 editions of them now, um, 17 coming this weekend.
yeah,
And you look at even other regions that have really, really, really struggled, like Asia Pacific and Oceania. Oceania more specifically because they play through the ESCA client in Oceania, whereas Asia Pacific they go through a whole different client. It's a perfect world client. It's
yeah.
a bit more messy because it's not messy. It's not as clear as a road, right?
Yeah,
Where these players come into.
there's a bit more of a fog, I guess, towards it.
Right, because you're dealing with more parties
Yeah.
in terms of actually getting the game servers and everything up. But Oceania has had like 4, 5, 6 different teams compete over the history of the Cash Cups. So it's like the player base is there. Are they willing to play Counter-Strike? And if they are, and they're willing to focus on Counter-Strike as their primary game, maybe you could do the same thing you could do in South Africa down there. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
you still have the ex Mind Freak players playing. You still got the X8 Ballers players playing. You got some other players who transitioned over to a different game who's coming back, or who do come back sometimes for the Cash Cups.
Yeah.
I mean, the player base could be there, but it depends on how much you're going to go looking for them to find them.
I almost want to say try with a 4-team league in Oceania, Asia, and South Africa, at least for a season. See what happens. You get the number 1 team makes it to the playoffs, to the land, to give them some experience. It's almost like the global challenge, right? Where um you had like one challenger team coming in from Oceania. You had one. I think they only did one from Brazil, which was kind of weird always.
Right?
But and then you had kind of a dark horse one that came in. I think either from Asia or like CIS. They always kind of brought like an extra one in. That was always cool because you got to see their Counter Strike was always a little bit different compared to everybody else. It's just because of how smaller their scenes were and how different a meta there tended to be down there.
Yeah. I think what you even could do is to level things out, right? Because
Yeah.
I think one of the early problems that we saw is season 1 had a spot for Oceania to an open qualifier, right?
Yeah.
And we had Mind Freak come through. Good team. Obviously they finished 8th at both lands, right? But
Yeah.
it's like, okay, they weren't competitive again when matched up against the other teams, but it's an opportunity that you're giving players that have not had that opportunity before to travel to other parts of the world, to play international teams, to get that experience, and then they can bring it back home and say, "Oh, look at what we've learned from these teams elsewhere that are competing for the trophies, that are making the playoffs of these lands, that are top 5 in the world. Let's try to implement that, right?" So, and then in season 2, you don't have the spot in Oceania, you have the spot in Asia Pacific.
Yeah.
So, Oceania's got nothing to play for. So I think if you're worried about, well, how do we level off these teams, like in terms of who's coming to the land and not, because it's an 8-team land, you can give South Africa 2 spots even and run a 5-team league and say the group winner is just going to come to land, period. and we're gonna run double round robin. It's 8 weeks if you want.
Yeah.
Group winner comes to land second and third play for the second spot, or you can run an open qualifier, so whatever you want to do, right?
Yeah.
But and then you give Oceania a spot and Asia Pacific a spot as well. You run 4 team leagues in there or something. There's potential to expand into those regions.
Yes.
It's going to take a lot more investment, but the potential, like again, how much do you want to input? Because what you input is what you're going to get out, right? So that's my key. It's
Is
always
that
my key
is that
philosophy.
that Benny's betting or Benny's brokerage?
Well,
That's your motto. Put in what you get out.
it is, but I mean, take a look at it, right? You look at the cash cups. You look at the prize pool for Asia Pacific. You look at the prize pool for Oceania. You look at the prize pool for South Africa. It's 500,
Yeah.
right? The winner wins 350. So what do you get? You get a lower turnout. Now, granted, those regions are smaller. You're not going to get the turnout you see in EU or the turnout you see in NA and
Yeah.
Oceania. It's not going to happen, right? The player base just isn't as big. But if you want 4 team cash cups, 5 team cash cups in Oceania, you could probably increase the prize pool. So that's what I mean. Like what you
Yeah.
put in is what you're going to get out in that sense, right?
Which it makes sense, and I even think like it's a good idea. I think maybe I know it's weird, but if you think of those three scenes, like that gives you an odd amount of teams already because you've got the six coming in, the six set ones. So you got two from Brazil, you've got or not Brazil, two from South America. It's basically Brazil, but two from South America, two from North America, two from EU. I wonder if just because the amount of teams in EU, you give them another group, like you give them a group C or something. So now you have 12 teams up there. That's 3 spots to qualify all of a sudden. And then you have the other three, maybe they're open qualifiers. Maybe it's a group like in South Africa. You could feasibly put a group together because you have the 5 solid teams, let's say, or you have enough players to make 5 teams to where they need to qualify. And there'll be a few teams that get left out because that's what happens. Like in NA, there was enough teams that a few got left out. Consistently, that happened. You think
Yeah.
like Sigma or Low Fidelity, where
Yep.
they missed both times around. We had Reversal randomly pop in, and they grabbed a spot. There was another team that was made, Bazinga. They popped up for the qualifier, and they've kind of dropped off since. And you also have the Peruvian teams that, for some reason,
Yep.
play in
Supremacy
NA,
Gaming.
and Osadia, yeah.
Yeah.
Those two, they popped up, and they were there in season 1. They're not anymore, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing too is you had that problem in Europe as well. I mean, look at like Copenhagen Flames didn't get a spot. Venari didn't get a spot. There's a team called Orglis. They didn't get a spot. Like there are other teams as well in Europe that I mean, there's plenty. We've had cash cups that have had like 20 plus teams. There's
Yeah.
plenty in Europe that you could make another group. And there's plenty of teams that would have a go at that league if you do make another group. So there's solutions to any problem that you present yourself by bringing in additional regions or having an odd number of regions represented at LAN. I think the important thing is to represent them at LAN. I think you got
Yeah.
to give them that
You
opportunity
gotta,
if
you
you want the
gotta.
game to grow, right?
What every single player I've ever seen on Twitter, in an interview or anything, is when they go to LAN, they have such a better time, a better experience because they're not just sitting at home behind their keyboard where they open the door and their parents are like watching soccer or something. Like they're grumbling about real world issues and you oh, get off your video games. No, you go to a LAN, you're there with people who are exactly like you and they are here for like esports. They're here to hang out with other gamers. They're here to enjoy themselves, and that kind of atmosphere is just always so much better than being at home alone. Like that was one of the big things. Is just when LANs came back after everything, all the pandemic stuff kind of started going away. You just kind of look at that and you go, that is what we want to do.
Yeah, and even the online stuff can't be underestimated either. I mean, look at North America prior to the announcement of the Impact League. We had CLG. We had nobody else.
No.
We had nobody else. And then all of a sudden, boom, look at this. We have more teams in season 2 than spots. I mean,
Yeah.
it's because you've put the investment in, because you've said we're willing to give that to the team. So I think if you have that same approach to the other regions, you'll get it out of the other regions. But um, that's maybe the expectations going forward for season 3. Certainly. Do you want to talk about the regions themselves, or do you want to talk about the overall? We kind of touched on what the
We
league
touched
is.
on the overall league layout. I think we did a pretty good job on that. And
Yeah.
honestly, I think we've kind of set our expectations for what we want out of season 3. We want more spots. We want a bigger LAN. I know that one of the feedback pieces from Valencia was it felt like they were kind of a sideshow. So maybe
Yeah.
more LANs as well would be
And a
nice.
little bit like that in Dallas too, right?
Yeah,
Like you had the stage with the DreamHack Dallas going on, and I get it. It was a best of five timing. Like you couldn't schedule them both on the stage and put a best of three in front of a best of five. Like it's just way too long
yeah,
a day. But the only I guess counterpoint to that was that the best of five final finished well before the Impact final, so everybody drifted over to the
yeah. And it was something like
the time.
they were like disassembling the they were disassembling like the stages as the Impact League finals was going on. It was like
Yeah,
I understand the timing of it because those venues become expensive once you start going over your time and everything, but it, it felt like there was a little bit of lack of respect coming through, and it was, it's one of those ugly points
yeah,
of like where was the. It didn't seem like the planning was all there, I guess, in terms of both
yeah.
venues.
And the thing about the Dallas one for me is like it was in the middle of the stage floor. Like if you like you would go in and that like on the side there would be like the Smash Brothers tournament and then like the Magic the Gathering tournament and all that was on the outskirts
Yeah,
and Impact League was plopped in the middle.
yeah,
And part of me is like that's not a bad layout because in a sense, right? Obviously, you would want them to play on the main stage, right?
yeah,
The objective is to get them onto the stage in the arena. But the only other bonus to having them in the middle is that you're going to have people that are not CS people or might not be in the women's Counter Strike scene as a viewer who are coming out of the arena like you did,
yeah,
who are going to pull up for more Counter Strike because it's competitive Counter Strike. Or you have people who maybe they love the esports scene and they're over there watching Smash because that's all they started with or playing with. And you come over and you see how hype we got into, especially that Dallas final, which was
yeah. That
fantastic,
was
right?
crazy.
And now they're watching this and they're going, oh wow, this is really intense. Like, oh my, and then it's a leapway into getting them into Counter Strike just as a whole, and let alone women's Counter Strike, right? You might not have that experience if you put them in the arena because the arena is not in on the main floor where most of the DreamHack attendees are. I don't know. That's the only bonus to the Dallas layout to me. The Valencia layout, yeah, it probably could have been better, but I didn't actually see the floor layout as much in Valencia. I do
Yeah.
have to admit. So,
There was
uh,
a lot more transparency, I think, with the Dallas layout in terms of like there was a like I at least I saw the plan for the entire layout of what the Dallas and the entire venue was going to look like in terms of where
yeah,
things
same
were.
here.
I never saw it for Valencia. And that's partially just like I guess they didn't want to share it. They didn't think it was important. Fair play, whatever. But I know there was a little bit of feedback from the players on that saying Valencia did not seem like they really cared that we were there, kind of thing. It was like we were here, we had a stage, but there wasn't a lot of attention paid to them when that was
Yeah,
one of the big 3 lands that they basically got throughout the
yeah,
year.
and you had a big team in front of a home crowd opportunity
Oh
with
my
Big
god,
Equipa. You
yes.
know what I mean? Like it's a shame they didn't make playoffs to that land too, because it's like you could have had. I mean, I understand like that they didn't win the games to make the playoffs, but
Yeah.
had they had made the playoffs, you would have had a hometown team, with three Spanish players and in front of the hometown crowd. That crowd was loud during those big Keeper games, and if you had made the playoffs, you probably would have gotten a lot more. But hindsight is 2020. It is what it is. We set our expectations for season three. The only other thing I would say is maybe an increase in the cash cup prize pool. I
Yeah.
don't think it needs to be that much.
No.
I think for the major three regions, you just go from 1,000 to 1,500. And I
That's
think
yeah.
I don't think you need to pay third place or anything like that either. I just think you up to 1,500. And I think for the other regions, you just go from 500. You could start at 750, but I think you should go up to 1,000 for the other regions for
Yeah.
South Africa, Asia, and Oceania, and see what it does. See, you know what I mean?
See if there's more players coming in cuz
Yep.
easily that could be good money for them, right? Like that's coming in. Let's okay. This is now worth my time. I'm getting 500. Our team is getting $500 if we win, or no, it's 750 because you win the lion's share of it. So our team
Right.
of 6 or 5 players and maybe a coach, so 6 players are gonna get $750 together that we can then that's $110, 100
Right.
or so bucks that that okay, I'll take a weekend and do that. Like, sure, why not?
Right, and that's the thing. Like you look at it now for 150 split 5 ways. Every player's making $30, so you have to say, is it worth if you're a player in Oceania and you know this mixed team that you have in Newt Newt that's like X8 Ballers mixed with X Mind Freak,
Yeah,
right? So literally the two best teams in the region. Whoever's left playing Counter Strike, if you know you're going up there, you've got no shot, right? Granted, they played very well the last Cash Cup,
yeah,
but assumedly, if it's anything like the previous 15, you've had no you don't really have much of a shot. You know you're going to go in there getting crushed 16 threes, 16 twos, 16 fives. I mean, is $30 worth devoting 2 hours of your time? For some players, it might not be.
yeah.
You know what I mean? But now you've upped the prize pools. It's 250. Everybody's coming away with whatever the math is on that one,
$50.
$50.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
bit more.
And if you're another team and you're like a pug team and you're going, well, we're not going to beat this Newt Newt side, but maybe we could get into the final and get the prize pool and take down whatever other you know what I mean
Yeah,
now you're starting to get the players there. I think it's tough. I think it's very tough. Because even then 1,000 might not do it for the runner up. You know what I mean? To warrant constantly having to play a best of three before getting crushed in a final.
yeah,
Like it is very difficult. But you've laid the groundwork. Teams are willing to show up for it, even if it's only one or two at a time. There's definitely opportunity to move that forward, I think.
yeah. And it's a good idea overall in terms of just continuing to push forward on that idea of, hey, we're willing to give you money. Please, like, show us that you're willing to play in and make this investment of ours worth it, which is kind of the big deal at the end of the day. Is they need to be players there, otherwise the money's just going to go away. Because why am I giving $1,000 to a region that only has 3 teams show up when,
Right.
oh, there's a fourth team now? All of a sudden it's not just like
Yeah.
a buy in a final. Like, it's it's that kind of it gets better with more teams playing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the overview of our expectation for season three. Let's get into regional recap, shall we? Let's go
Yeah,
over what we actually have seen in the Impact League so far
yeah.
in season two, at least. And let's start with Europe. Let's start with the same old story here, Parks. Nigma are dominating everybody.
Big
2-0
surprise.
groups. Yeah, big surprise. 2-0
Yeah.
groups. Wins over, I believe it is oh lordy, I just had it in front of me actually. Ninjas in Pajamas.
Uh-huh.
And then their second win was over lordy me, I can't read.
Uh-oh.
In Tropic Queens.
Okay.
So they're 2-0 and they will play next week No Fear 5 who are also 2-0. Anybody does anybody want to stop this team at all? I mean that's my question.
Can I think it's not
Yeah, yeah.
like it's not is anybody gonna stop them, is can anybody stop them at this point? Like they are definitely declared as the number one team in all of women's CS right now with good reasoning. They've won all both the lands that they've attended in terms of the Valencia and Dallas. They won both.
Yep.
um they've shown to be consistently the best team out there as well. So I don't know. I don't know what you say to that in terms of can anybody stop them? We don't know yet. Um, I always think back to Furia or one of the other Brazilian teams just because the
Right.
amount of reps they get in with all the tournaments they play and everything. I think they're probably going to be the next best up there just because their tournament structure is so strong down there. They get so much practice and so many reps in. That's my like I think it's going to be a Brazilian team that does it.
Yeah.
How soon though? When is it gonna happen? Is it gonna be the season 2 finals? I don't know.
So to answer the question, can anybody stop them? I think not in Europe. I think that's the question. Like now that we're in the regional leagues stage, I would say not in Europe.
Yeah,
I think they're going to breeze through everybody. Furia have an opportunity to. I think there's a possibility. I think Furia are a better Mirage team. I think they
yeah,
proved that at Dallas. I think they're still a really good Mirage team. I'm interested to see what Furia do in terms of like a nuke or an angel because Furia are very, very good on nuke, but they do not get the. It is always banned against them. Always banned against them. even in the Brazilian regional like play,
Yeah.
whether it's Impact League or something else, like Nuke is just banned against them. And their biggest opponent, MIBR, or one of their two biggest opponents, the other being B4, obviously. MIBR permabanned Nuke. Like it was their permaban.
Yeah.
They've changed that. They've started to leave Nuke in the map vetoes a little bit more. So is it possible that they're working on Nuke? And if MIBR are working on Nuke, is it possible that they can get it to a point where maybe it is more competent than Nigma's Nuke, and we get a map veto where both of those maps are in there. Fury
Yeah.
has a chance of 2-1, like the opportunity, or MIBR has a chance of 2-1, one of the two, right? Um, I don't know. I actually think we're gonna see. I think we're gonna see Nigma just take season 2 final because I look at the other competitor that I can take them down. And I think the other competitor is CLG, and I think CLG are going to be a lot better than what we saw in
Yeah.
season 1 and at
I
Valencia.
I
A
I agree with
lot
that.
better. But I think it's going to be one of those things where they're better as a team, but they're just not quite there. Like I have a feeling CLG is going to establish itself as the number 2 in the world after the Yokaping land. But I think it's going to be an intense final between them and Enigma Galaxy. But I think Enigma Galaxy, I can't see them getting stopped, man. They're too good.
I I like the optimism. I genuinely don't know because we just see CLG Red dominate like that we'll get to that soon. We just see them dominate, but it's interesting to see that comparison now with the new roster coming in. How they didn't really play that well at Valencia, how they didn't really play that well at Dallas, and still kind of got some decent results. So that's something to keep going on here. Continuing forward though, the other team in the group that with Nigma is No Fear 5. They're also 2-0. So
Yeah,
it,
qualifier team, by the way.
it's really interesting to see in EU at least that you're either you're a really good team and you're 2-0, and this is the same for both groups because it's the same thing with MVP and Astralis, or not MVP and Astralis. Sorry, it's the same thing with the other with Group B. Group A and Group B are basically the same. You have two teams that are 2-0, you have two teams that are 0-2, and it's one of those things of like it just kind of shows like they're winning out. There's no middle ground yet. I guess it's just kind of a you're good and you're not as good.
I think the thing to remember about this No Fear 5 side is the core, or what's left of the core, which is mainly Elizabeth and KSU, have been playing together for a while, a long while, 2+ years. Almost, I want to say 3 full at least.
Yeah.
So, this team knows how to play together. And when they were No Fear 5 back in like 2020, 2021, things like that, they were playing second place in these women's competitions in Europe. They were placing there. They were giving trouble to, you know, teams like the Exaku Boris, which is, I believe, now Navi Javelins. It's like they definitely had some good punches they could throw. Um, but Fatal moved on from that team. For some reason, I can't remember who the Fatal's on MVP now, by the way.
Mm.
I can't remember who the other fifth was, but MRSK is a substitute for No Fear 5. So, the chemistry is still there. They've got Victoria and Dinalco, who are really good players, very, very good players. Stormy as well is in there. So this is a team that's packing a lot of punch. I mean, you can't look at the qualifier teams and really take them for granted like you could do in other regions. No disrespect to the qualifier teams in other regions, by the way. Just, I think the competition in Europe is so incredibly strong that these teams come in and they have just as much bite.
Yeah.
And I think they're proving that with at least with the No Fear 5 side. I think that there's really a good team here that is on pace to go like 4-2 in groups, and that's a playoff spot if you're 4-2 at the
Yeah.
end of the group stage.
Really good. You know, and listen, it's hard. It's hard to be in the same group as Nigma, especially because they're gonna win. I do not see Nigma not going 6-0. So it's basically the fight for second, and it's kind of the same thing with CLG Red in that respect.
It's a double-edged sword though, because both of these groups in Europe and in North America, you look over at the other groups and you have two teams that are very good,
Yeah.
that are the favorites for playoffs. So it's like, what group do you want to be in? Do you want to be in the group where you're not going to win, but you could qualify for the playoffs, or it's just going to be a struggle the whole way.
Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of where we get to with the next part of this in EU at least is Astralis and MVP most valuable players are both 0-2. And I guess we got to kind of celebrate because Astralis has a team. Like that
Yes, I'm
was
very happy at that.
that was the same with NIP. Like these teams like they qualified and then pretty much immediately they got signed with so NIP and Astralis picking them up. That's a really good story that really shows that ESL Impact is having an impact. To There's no other way really to say it. They're having an
Yeah,
impact. They're showing that yes, it's good to invest in women's CS because this is going to be consistent leagues here, and if your team performs well, there's a chance that they go to playoffs, they go to a LAN, and the sky is the limit from there.
yeah. I mean, it's always tough getting drawn in a group that Biggie Keepa and Navi Javelins are in. Like Navi Javelins have looked so good, even back at the Valencia land. Like they were a really good playoff team. Gave MIBR a very good run for the money in the playoff series. Like really, really good team, this Navi Javelin side, right? You felt like that the ceiling's a little bit above where they were, right? Especially when CLG was weaker at Valencia. You thought the grand final, the way they played, was certainly possible for that team at Valencia, right? Biggie Keepa dropped the ball at Valencia, and I thought maybe it's the home crowd, the pressure. You know what I mean? How you want to perform in front of your home fans that also adds added pressure. It could be that they've made a change. They look pretty good since the change. Um, but Astralis aren't a bad side. I mean, they're 1-4 in maps across their two series, but the round difference is only -22,
Yeah,
which makes me suggest that they're losing maps like 16-11s, 16-10s, right?
yeah,
Somewhere around there, like competitive in those maps. So it makes me feel like there's a little bit more that they can find that can get these wins over Navi, Javelin, and Biggie Keeper and get them back in a group. But I got a tough test this week in MVP because MVP are not a walkover by any stretch of the imagination. And if you're Astralis and you want to turn your season around, you think we can do better. There's more we can get out of this team together collectively. You start with by beating MVP. So I
yeah.
think that's the big thing going into week 3.
Yeah, beating your essentially who will have the worst record, who will continue to not have a win
Yeah,
under their belt. That's
yeah,
that's what this week sets up for in Group B, and it's the same thing in Group A. Like between Entropic Queens and NIP, which one of you is going to continue to go 0-3, and which one of you will actually pick up a win and start to build something because that's what you've got to
yeah,
do.
yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. I think especially in Group B, that win, whoever is MVP of Strauss, it's an opportunity to get back into the group. Whereas I look at Group A and I go, Ninjas in Pajamas and Tropic, obviously they're not beating Nigma, but like No Fear 5 is playing so well that whoever gets the win there might just drop the second series to No Fear 5 on the return fixture, and then
Yeah,
just it's
it's
it's a
done.
moot point that it like
Yeah,
the wins just consolidation. Whereas I look at Group B and say it's an opportunity to actually turn it around.
yeah. So that's Europe. That's them sorted. We those are the 8 teams. They're kind of still fighting out. At least in Group B, there's the big struggle. As for our next one coming in here, it is going to be South America. Group A.
Yes.
We got who we got here. We got Furia going 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
We got Black
Expected.
Dragons. Yeah, expected. Black Dragons, W7M Esports are both 1-1, and then we've got Parabellum Esports sitting at 0-2. That looks like a better group just in terms of the numbers.
Um,
Not in
I'm a
terms
little
of skill, but like
yeah.
there's a bit more competitive maybe, I guess, is a better way to put it.
It's I think they're equally as competitive, but in different areas.
Yeah.
So what I mean is, Group A, the competitiveness is who gets the second spot. Who is not who is second best to Furia, right?
Yeah.
I think in Group B, there's a clear two who are going to make the playoffs, but you cannot separate the two. I
Yeah.
think they are neck and neck. I think that's the competitiveness. And I look at the second team in Group A, and I think I can't separate these two either. I think they're neck and neck. So I've seen them both beat each other consistently. I mean, they're separated by 3 on the round difference after 4 maps play or after 4 maps played. So it's like just uh, where's the degree of separation, right? It's going to come in next week when they have to play each other. But
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, there's no surprise that Fury's dominating. I'm a little bit shocked to see Parabellum 0-2 in the fashion that they're 0-2 because this is a time, remember, they used to be called Illusion. They were unsigned. Um, Parabellum picked them up, and this is a team that really, okay, they weren't even close compared to Furia before MIBR, but you get them against the W7M that maybe is struggling for form, or Black Dragons at the time were struggling for form prior to coming into this league, and you thought, there's a chance this game's really competitive, and they haven't been competitive in any of the maps they've really played, and it's been like, oh, okay. So unfortunate. I think I would have liked to see more out of them. They're not going to get the opportunity to in week 3 because I believe they have to play Furia. So it's
Do they? Let's
it's
see.
it's going to be
Hold on.
difficult.
They do have to play Furia.
Yeah. So
I
we're not going to see. We're not going to get the opportunity to see more out of them next week.
no.
The week after, though, definitely. I mean, if they go 0-4, it's over. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
It
But
just I wonder if they skid to an 0-6 at that point. Like if it gets that
I mean,
bad
I
for them.
hope not. I really do want to see this team compete, but I mean, it's not out. It's definitely plausible.
So then, moving over to the Group B side, then you mentioned the top two are indistinguishable between each other. That is B4 Esports versus MIBR. They are joined in the group by Endgame Esports and Independence FEM, which I guess is Feministas or however you wanna go.
Independence female.
Independence female, yeah. Feministas, I think, sounds more.
I don't even know if that's the right word.
Probably not. It's probably not.
I don't think it's the right
Adds
word,
some
man.
flair.
I
You
think
know,
you're exposing yourself here.
I
Okay.
I I think it adds some very interesting flair. We talk about
I
teams
think the
having.
Portuguese are going to look at it and be like, this guy.
I don't. I don't speak Portuguese. I don't speak Spanish.
uh,
I just think it has
uh,
a nice ring to it. Like when you look at Copenhagen Flames and they have the Shield Maidens. Like
it's it's
that's
it's it's pronounced Famia.
Demia.
Famia. Yeah.
I'm learning every single day, Benny. Look at me
And
go.
if you're pronunciating it in a masculine way, it's Famio.
Sorry,
Like, you know how
Famule,
Famio or Famia?
Famio or Famia.
Famio or
Famio,
Famia?
Famio, Famia,
Put a
Famio.
little bit of accent on it.
I don't know
You
what
gotta
accent to
speak up.
put. I have
It's
French in my blood.
Portuguese. It's okay. I mean, I have Philadelphian in my blood. I'm trying. I'm trying. Okay.
Famio, Famio, Famio,
There you go. A little bit better.
Famio. Gotta
Yeah.
sound like I'm in Lucas. I could be like
No.
Famio. That's
No.
Italian though. This is the problem.
I know. I
Romantic
know.
languages
And
are
next, you're gonna
interesting
be
for me.
talking to a painting saying he is Vigo.
He's Vigo.
That's an old movie reference. The boomers come
The
out. The
boomer has
boomers.
come out. He mentioned Philly and he instantly turned 13 years older.
No, 13. Oh God!
Baker's
Shout out
dozen.
Ghostbusters too, by the way. Great
Yeah.
movie. Uh,
All right. Well, listen. B4 Esports and MIBR. We'll get back on track here, but we'll
yeah,
try.
rough segue, but
Rough.
we'll get back on track. Look,
Damn you.
I'm interested because just derailed again.
Yep.
No, I'm interested because here's the thing, right? MIBR made a change and they brought in Josie, and they looked really, 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 really good. Even at the LAN at Valencia, they looked fantastic after that change, right? B4's made a change, and I really like B4's change. So B4 brought in a player called Poppins, and the problem that they had is Poppins was 15 um, in season 1, right? So Impact League rules said she's too young to play, so she couldn't play in season 1, right? But it's a change that Junger, who's the leader, I believe it was Junger, um, had in mind. Junger is a very good tactical mind, very good tactical mind. Um, and she's very good at planning these things, right? So, at least from what I know of, right? Junger is free to completely prove me wrong, by the way. Yell at me.
I hope so. I want to see
It
some Twitter
probably,
drama from you.
probably. But from what I know, she's very good at planning these things. So, B4 played with their best, and they played really, I mean, their best. They were Black Dragons back in season 1, by the way. They got to LAN. They beat MIBR in like this thrilling 5 overtime overpass game. It was set to get there. Like it was just insane. They get to land. They played well on land. They took CLG to double overtime on overpass. Like they played good. Didn't make it to I think they made it to playoffs actually, and then immediately lost in the semifinals. Or they
MIBR?
might have no Black Dragons in the first land. If I
Oh, the
remember
first. I don't
correctly.
remember in the first land.
I mean, I think in the Dallas land,
Because it
uh,
was Nigma, Furia, and CLG Red, and there was a fourth team in there. I don't remember if it was
I'm
a
going
European or a South American
right
one.
to the. No, they didn't make playoffs. I'm
There
sorry.
you go.
Yeah, there you
Oh
go.
well.
They lost to Biggie Keepa 16-14, 16-19 in season
Uh
one. Like as the last series to get the land. So okay, but anyway, played well. You know what I mean? They bring in Poppins, and they're just on a tear right now. Black Dragon, or sorry, B4. They signed with a new org, B4, in that time as well.
yeah.
And they're 4-0. They haven't dropped a map. They have a 32 round. I'm sorry, they have a 30 round difference. MIBR dropped the map to endgame. So in the series so far, they're 2-0, but they're 4-1 in maps. They do have a better map differential or round differential, but it's like you look at these games and you look at MIBR versus Independence, who's in this group. You look at MIBR versus Endgame in this group, and MIBR are going to win those series. They're a better team, but Independence Endgame is going to give them a really good run for their money on their maps. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some of the maps are like Dust 2, where I mean, it seems like it's the old train for like European and North American Counter Strike. And I mean that
yeah.
in a non-joking way. Like go back to when Train was in the map pool, and like
It wasn't
XZ,
picked.
yeah, XZ played it, Nigma played it, CLG played it. Like everybody at the top level played Train.
Yeah.
Brazil, that is Dust 2.
Yeah.
Everybody plays Dust 2. So, you know, these are teams that are giving MIBR a little bit of trouble. So, in a series that if you look at the head to head, B4 have won more series, but MIBR have won the 2 series that are more important. The most important 2 series, MIBR has won. So including one on land.
There you go.
So it's like, okay, maybe the advantage is with MIBR, but this B4 team's looking really, really good.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's the whole thing, right? Does that lane experience carry over to when you're facing off against stiffer competition, and all of a sudden it's like, guys, we've been to a lane before, we want to go back, we've got to prove it now. We got to make sure we show it now because we don't want to end up facing off against Furia to try and qualify for the lane. Because that's basically what it is right now. Is if you get second place in Group B, you got to face off against the A1, and A1 is going to be Furia as as much as grass grows, like Furia is going to be 1A. So that's now you
Yeah.
got to be worried about you want to plan to face off against 2A, and that
Yep.
means being 1B.
Yep. That's the same story in North America, which we're about to get to. Like
Oh yeah.
that you want to avoid playing Furia. It's very imperative that you do that. And if you want to get to Yokaping, and I think B4 with the change, Poppins has looked really good. I just think, and this player's 16. I mean, that's the scary thing is like this player is 16 and she is absolutely tearing up South America right now. She's not the one that pops off the most or like, every game, but it's like you have a player. I hate to make the comparison because it's really not fair to the player, right? But it reminds me of almost Emmy when Emmy came into the scene, where
Mm,
it's like this is a player who is good, right? Maybe when Emmy came into the scene, it was main level experience,
yeah.
but at such a young age, coming into a professional side with the stature like CLG, and this is the same thing for Poppins, coming into a professional side with the stature before playing with the players that she's playing with, who are very good, and a lot of them have just taken over games, whether it's Junger or Goddess,
Yeah.
or Nani, and that's the thing, like where like the ceiling is so high that this player could just become something even better and propel a team like B4 to
Yeah.
heights they haven't reached yet.
Well, it's almost like that kind of speak of the new CLG Red. It's almost like that with Kelsey, where she came in. She was at least to most of everybody who kind of watched the regular CS. I hadn't paid attention mostly to women's CS at this point, but like Kelsey comes in and everybody's going, who is this? Like, we've never heard of her. And
Right.
all of a sudden now she was one of the carryovers when the roster had its turnover. She and Goosebeater were the two that carried over, and that kind of shows that, yeah, her ceiling is going to keep going. There's no glass there yet for her to smash through, because her ceiling is that high. It's now, how do you mold, not mold, but how do you get the best out of her? How, at such a young age, how do you boost her
Yeah.
playing? And it's going to be the same thing down with this team, and it's going to have to be the same thing, because you can't, with so many other good players, you can, the expectation is they're going to grow as well, and that's
Yep.
the whole thing. The play together, the chemistry, the growing together, just the reliance. That's such a big thing, and at such a young age, 16 years old, like, there's going to be a
Yeah.
huge boost in not even 5 years. Like, depending on which sport you play, that you talk about your prime years. Like, she is a youngster for at least like 3 more years by soccer terms, 4 years, and
Yeah.
then what? Her prime time is what, 23 to 26. Like,
Something like that. Which,
something crazy.
which, by the way, just side note, you
Yeah.
can leave this in the pod if you want, but she speaks pretty good English. She says she doesn't, but her
Oh.
English is pretty good. So, can we please get a team with her and Bibian in it? Because that would just
Oh.
be insane. I'm just saying, Bibian is an unbelievable player of quality. And
Same
she's
thing though.
19.
Yeah.
She's
Same thing.
19. So it's like, bruh, like,
It's
God,
it's happening.
can you imagine if you had a team, your three riflers were Emmy, Bibian, and Poppins? You'd be set. You'd be set. You'd have go kill mode on every round.
It, I guess it speaks to, because the scene is so small, the old guard leaving immediately leaves a gap that a young player with talent can come in and instantly
Yeah,
take and just pop
yeah,
off, because
yeah.
now and the eyes are on Poppins, because all of a sudden she's on a great team that needed a spot filled. Young, great talent, boom, you're set.
It's funny you mentioned the old guard because it's like Emmy was still incredibly young.
I know,
Like
but
she's
that's the thing, right?
that's why I'm like I'm so gutted she's
It's
gone, but
something.
at least out of the Counter Strike scene, right? Not
Yeah,
gone isn't
she's
like
not gone. No,
no,
she's playing
but
Valorant.
yeah. But I agree. I think it's neat, and I think that the wonderful thing about South America, which is going to give them the edge, right? Which is why I'm trying to tell people uh, that pay attention to women's Counter Strike, because the Brazilian scene is kind of overlooked by a lot of different people in women's Counter Strike,
Yeah,
and I'm like, this is an environment in South America that has consistent competition across multiple different platforms, tournament organizers, everything else, right? Different sponsors, everything, so the environment to take a player like this and develop them into something world class is there.
yeah,
You don't have that in other regions, right? We are incredibly blessed. I don't want to say lucky because I don't 100% believe in it. That you could apply it, but we are very lucky that Bibian is a player that wanted to come to North America and
yeah,
play for this team, because now her career can continue, and that upward trajectory is still there for her, right?
yeah.
It's very much a player that, homesickness is, we see it, we saw it with
We
even a player
say,
like Simple in the tier
yeah,
one scene that eventually moved back when he was with Team Liquid. Like,
it happens all
that
the time with European players who come to NA. They run their course in North America. They want to go home.
exactly right. Exactly right. And Australia's different than North America as well.
Yeah,
So it's like, we're very grateful that, the opportunity was taken, because as a player that could have been like, no, I really love Australia enough, I'm going to play, but I don't want to leave.
yeah,
And then there's no opportunity for her. But, I think the environment in Brazil for Poppins is there to really develop, help her develop into a
yeah.
player that could be just arguably one of the best we've seen in the world right now.
There you go. That's right there. That's the line. Could be one of the best in the world. Okay, I think we're gonna move on from Brazil though. We've spent a
Okay.
great amount of time on them. Um,
Love you,
we
Brazil.
we love Brazil.
I
Benny
love
Benny
Brazil.
spends absolutely
I've
every
been
single moment he
converted.
can.
I've been
Even
completely
I
converted.
saw a tweet you were replying to a Brazilian outlet in English, and
Yeah.
you did the whole thing, and then there was a bunch of tweets below you, including the org who had made the above tweet saying, "Oh, we love it." And that makes my heart melt a little bit, because I'm like, at
Yeah.
least they're seeing you, right? That's so, it's so cool.
Yeah, and before we move on to
Oh
it's
yeah,
great
yeah,
that they're getting coverage. Like, that's the
yeah,
other part, is that, like, there's no English coverage for them. Like I think that's another thing that might be lacking in Asia Pacific. Asia Pacific is really the only other region that doesn't naturally speak English.
Yeah.
It's a secondary language there, whereas like so um but because of just the shroud of uncertainty that surrounds CS:GO and how it's run and what tournaments there are in Asia Pacific. There's no reason to extract that and give it to an English audience. Whereas in Brazil, there's still those difficulties, right? Because of all the different tournament organizers and like having to contact them. It's not easy. It's not like it's just open. Things are not open IP like they are with ESCA tournaments, which is great
Yeah.
about ESCA.
Oh, thank
But
goodness for that.
the opportunity is there to bring some of those tournaments to an English audience, and that's only going to elevate their game.
Yeah. No. And there it is. So we're gonna move on to NA now because there's a lot to
Yep.
talk about there.
Yep.
We've got Group A, which is the CLG Red group. So you got CLG Red, you've got Saints, you've got Valkyries, and you've got Reversal. That's Group A. And then in Group B, we've got Evil Geniuses, we've got Echo, we've got Please Send Box, and we've got Hot Flash. And so we'll
Yep.
go through Group A first because
Okay.
that's the way we've been doing this. Who is gonna come second place?
Uh,
Right on the spot. Who's gonna come second place?
uh, Valkyries.
Valkyries. Okay.
Yeah.
Even
I think they're
with
going to be second place.
even with
Even
the
though they
loss to
just
the
lost the
Saints.
Saints.
Yeah.
Yes. I think this team, I don't know. Saints really, really, that was an incredible series, by the way.
Oh, it was. I watched it with you.
But
But didn't you cast it? You
I
cast it and I
casted it.
watched
Yeah.
it? Yeah, like this is how this works. We're in our time zone now.
Yeah, exactly. Um, I think Saints look good. Like they're playing good Counter Strike. They're playing very good Counter Strike. Um, but the proof's in the pudding. I think Valkyries have been they have experience before. I think before Impact, before even this year,
Yeah.
some of these players together. I think they've played at a high level. They've beaten high level competition. So I just think they got to just continue to shake off the rust. I think this is a team that um can definitely make it. It's tough, man. Part of me wants to take it back and say uh, it's not going to be them, and it's going to be Saints because that series was very good. But
Yeah.
I think Valkyries will find the key difference, and I don't think they'll lose again in the reverse fixture. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
I don't think they will, and I think the round difference already favors them, and the map difference already favors them. So I think you'll see them definitely like they'll take care of business against Reversal, whereas like you saw the Saints really struggle to get that one over the line in the opening week, and I think you'll see more of that in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, there's a motorcycle outside my house and my mic is
It's all
picking
good
it up
as
very
long
nicely.
as Reversal ain't buying the XM. I'll put it that way. Like I get it. It's funny. It's
Oh my
cool. That's
goodness.
you play that way. Like I totally understand. You dropped a player for this. You dropped a play. You didn't. Don't tell me you dropped a player for the XM 10 rounds out of 30. Like please don't. I can't take it,
There was
man.
a lot behind that reversal. Like, there's listen, we
As a commentator,
is a
I'll give you. Listen, I'm gonna give you the Stephen A. Smith. It's gonna be
yeah,
rude.
yeah,
Okay, it's going on your
yeah.
podcast, but I'm
Our
here to tell you
podcast,
right
you're
now.
yeah,
I don't care.
I know.
Okay, I
I
don't
know you
care.
don't care. I care a bit because this is my bread and butter. Is I focus so hard on NA. I see all these things and I get messages. I get players messaging me, being like sharing a tweet, and they'll be like, "What the fuck is happening?" I'll be like, "I don't know. You just shared. This is the first time I'm seeing it." Like, and then I have to go in. And I talk to some of the players. I talk to the coaches, and I'd be like, "So like, is there something I should be taking away from this?" Is like, if people ask me like, what should I be saying? And eh, I had that with the whole reversal situation. I was like, "So what happened?" And there's like, I don't know. I left the team. I'm done. I'm like, okay, it's not looking great
I
then.
I just after week one though, like if you like, I would say, look, you almost came back on map two, which is a vertical.
Yeah,
You were down heavy. It was like 12-4, and they lost in overtime. I think it was, and so it's like
it's
you were
tilting.
yeah, it's tilting to lose like that, but you can't look at that and say there's not opportunities to grow. Like
Yeah.
you can't, you find it your round or two better, you win that map. You're playing a third map. Like, okay,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? There's opportunity. Okay, let's take Valkyries. They lost the Saints. You know what I mean? We came back 12-4 down or something like that and ran it back to overtime. What can we do against Valkyries? Okay, let's try that. Okay, there's your measuring stick. Those two
Yeah.
teams, right?
I
And because you're not going to beat CLG, so you
No.
look at them and go, okay, maybe we're not there yet. Maybe we need to make a change after being 0-2. If you lose to Saints, Valkyries, fine, fine, absolutely fine. But I mean, you've
1 week. The team was
one
the
week when you
team.
played good CS on the Vertigo and it looks
Yeah.
promising for you. Like I just you're throwing away an opportunity,
And
right?
I mean, one of the things that comes with this reversal squad is they were literally made for the second qualifier. Like, they
Right.
did not exist. They were free agents who just wanted to play. They were good at the game. They won against low fidelity. They won against supremacy. They qualified. Boom, you're in the league. Now, what happens? And there,
Yeah.
I don't know what happens in terms of what the process is behind that, because all of a sudden they
Right.
pick up a coach. Now the coach that they picked up is gone because of the behind the scenes stuff. So, like, that loss, sure, it's one that you don't want. But when Valkyries which was Slay last season, is a team that got an invite back, and it's the core three. Like, they took two of their players are gone. They added two more. You got to realize, like, there's a reason they were top four. Like, they were good.
Yeah.
You can't just take that and say
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
lost 0-2. Even if we came back, I can't do this anymore. Like,
Yeah.
that's not the mentality. And they'll learn, but it's not going to be the easy way.
Yeah. There's a really good book I read recently, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's called Relentless. It's by Tim Grover. It's very good for anybody who wants to get like sports psychology and like how to put yourself in the right mind frame.
Yeah.
Um, I think they need to read that book because there's two things in that book that pointed out. Number one, results are everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Results matter. Like the people go, oh, well, we played our good best. Yeah, blah 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 blah. No, the result is the end. Like you're judged on the results. You're
Yeah.
not judged on anything else. So, when you look at a team that can take Saints to the overtime, and you thought, okay, maybe what can they do against not reverse Valkyries, and then you don't give the opportunity to, you take other teams that have looked really good in qualifier number one but didn't make it, and you beat them, pretty comfortably in the qualifier number two, and you go, okay, you know what I mean? You're trending upwards here. You're trending up and up and up. So keep going, right? There's more
Yeah.
room for you to go towards the upside, right? This is how you throw it all away. So
That's Group
my
A.
suggestion is, uh, read the book, but also,
Read a book.
the second thing is, not read a book, read that book.
Read the
But also
book.
the second thing is like the team is the most important thing, right?
Yeah.
So you got to be able to put stuff aside, and this is for any drama, but like look, South Africa drama that we've seen, this North American drama that we've seen, like it doesn't matter. You have to be able to put differences aside to say, okay, we can work on these things because the goal is more important than what this is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like the goal is more important. And collectively, the only way you're going to reach that goal is collectively. You're not going to reach it anyway else.
Yeah.
So you got to understand that and you got to work within those parameters. And that's how you get a reversal that could be 1-1 right now instead of 0-2. And they're very much in the group with a chance to go to the playoffs. Like
Yeah.
that's the difference.
That's the difference. And I mean, for Group A, it's CLG and then one of probably Saints or Valkyries. Reversal don't seem like they're there yet. And that's all right. It's their first season. It's these players getting their chance in Impact. It's giving them a chance to face off against these good teams, giving them the experience. That's all this is, man. That's what you're here for. And
Yeah.
it's kind of the same way in Group B. So we got, like I said, EG, Police Inbox, Echo, and Hot Flash. Hot Flash is in the same boat as Reversal in terms of they've been here before. They qualified again after not being in the top four last season. And again, it's just they're here to get the
Yeah.
experience because they lost 0-2 to Echo. They lost
Yeah.
0-2 to Evil Geniuses. Like, EG and Police
Yeah.
Box are a whole other conversation. Those
Yeah,
two are the top
exactly.
two dogs. That's what I expect. But when you look at Echo being 1-1, like, there's still a little bit of a might something happen because Please Send Box is 1-1 as well. EG is topping this group right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for is Echo. What can Echo do against the box, right?
Yeah.
So it was unfortunate because against the series against EG, I believe they had to forfeit the first map.
Yes,
Which
that was a whole thing.
I still don't know why, but it's just I
Uh
don't. Was it like a work commitment or something
it
like
was
that?
somebody was stuck in traffic and the substitute couldn't get there in time.
That is awful.
That is
That's so
horrible.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's
it's not
why
awful on the players. Don't I'm not saying it's the
no,
player's
no,
fault.
no.
Like,
It's not
but we've
awful.
all been there. Like,
It's you're sitting there like crying because
oh
it's
yeah,
such a like it's such a stupid thing to all of a sudden, and literally on the broadcast goes, they're ready, they're doing their pre-match, and then just nothing. It's just the
yep.
same loading screen for the next like 20 minutes. And because
That's
they
tough.
go over this is the same thing that happened all those years ago to Immortals, that like KNG was
Oh,
reportedly going to
yeah.
kill, like he's like, I'm gonna kill FNS, like that whole thing,
Little,
that was
little
because
bit of
of
a different
this.
scenario.
Well,
Little bit of a different
the
scenario.
the fallout from it was different, but like the starting
Well,
part
the
was
reason they were late was different as well.
yeah,
Okay. I
yes,
mean, it's
they had very like they could have done it, like they did it to themselves, but it's
oh
the
yeah.
same thing of like the 15 minutes passed, you have to forfeit the mat.
Yep.
That's rules are rules. We
Yep.
saw that's been displayed multiple times. Rules are rules. It's so unfortunate because I really like, and like Echo did not even have a chance in that Dust 2 match. Like that they lost their map pick because they picked first. They lost their map pick. It got forfeited, which meant their
Yeah.
competitive, like the map they were meant to be most competitive on, that they practiced the most, that they were ready to play on, wasn't there. So
Yeah. Which is why I'm interested to see against Box.
yeah.
Shout out Exotic, by the way. I am New York. But that one wasn't forfeited. It's a
Oh,
shame.
buddy.
God, Parks. Your decision to leave that in or not,
Nah,
because
we're leaving it all in, Benny. We're leaving it all in.
okay, okay. I'm just saying, okay. Uh, look, sorry, he's not in CS anymore. I don't even think so.
Nah, whatever.
Um, it's all right. So he might have even been late to the Valorant game as well. Swap it over. We'll see.
How
But
many NA
aside from
players have
that,
been late to games, Benny? It's the
oh,
meme at the times.
oh, plenty.
Plenty.
But how many have been consistently late with, like, Dollgate my homework kind of excuses? I don't know. Uh,
I didn't get a passport because I didn't expect us to win. Like,
yeah, God.
oh, oh,
There's a throwback.
that's a throwback.
There's an God, I know.
We love it.
Twice, by the way. Twice land dodge.
We signed
Twice
a guy
land
who
dodge.
never wants to go to a LAN. Oh, it's
Yeah,
great. I loved that. I loved Splice Days, man. Those Splice Days were great. Shout out to Davey for
those are
having
the golden days of
those.
ESL Pro League, by the way. Right before you had to start watching the games on Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay.
So looking at Group B, we'll round it out
Right.
here. Looking at
Going
Group
back to
B,
Group B.
we've got EG in the top. They look to continue here. Barn burner of a series against Police and
Oh,
Box.
incredible.
It ever disappoints, ever, when those two teams meet.
No.
It's always so good. So my expectation is it's gonna be EG and Police and Box. I don't want to call them upgrades, but with the new players coming into Please Send Box, which have given them their name, like Vanessa was really good on Slay, and Senna was Senna on Please Send Help before they turned into EG.
Yeah.
So like there's
Who's still playing at a great level. Like, Senna's
exactly.
been playing at a phenomenal level.
So I see Echo fighting for that third second. I see them showing up and being a really good team. I don't think they have it yet to make second place. I will eat
No, but
my words and gift Folly 5 subs if that changes, because shout out to her. She is an Oiler if Oilers existed.
I know.
She is
I
crazy.
know.
She just comes in, she drops 5, and she's like, huh? What? That was me. And I'm like,
I know.
why? She's like, she called me the
comes in
goat.
the-
She called
I
me the
know.
goat. I'm like, why? Like, Benny's been doing this way longer than me. You gotta call Benny
No,
the
no,
goat.
don't. Still, she comes in and drops 5, so grab your 4. Let's get keyed. Okay?
Exactly. You know.
All right. A 90s rap star reference for you there, Parks. You know you're gonna get them.
Yeah.
Great song, by the way. Uh,
But
look in
yeah,
the comment section to see if anyone knows what it is. But anyway,
Benny, they're all Zoomers. Don't worry.
I know. Senna might not be. She might come in.
Senna
But,
might drop it.
come on, Senna. No, but look, I think this is an interesting group because Echo, I think, has an opportunity to show us something against the Bucks, even if they don't take a map, like competitively get close. I'm actually surprised. I would have thought Echo. I love this team and the players on this team. Absolutely adore them. I've been commentating them for years.
Yeah.
I just they're some of my favorite. Really nice people as well.
Hmm.
Really, really, really
Oh,
nice people. I
I
cannot
know
say enough.
firsthand. I know firsthand. I got
Yeah,
to meet Folly in person, so
yeah, and I can't say enough praise about CY, and I know CY and Sirius have been playing together a while as well. So, um, but I would have come in with the expectation they would be fourth place in this group, and I would have come in with the expectation that we would have seen more from Hot Flash, who were in season one. And I would have said, okay, you've got the experience. This team is good. Like, okay, the Saints team looks to be better. This Valkyrie's team looks to be better. But if the top four in or the top five even in North America are CLG, EG, Box, Valkyrie, Saints, I would have said six could be Hot Flash. Like, definitely a possibility. And Echo really, I mean, it was I believe they were trailing in that Inferno game as well that they played against each other for the longest time.
yeah.
And in the second half, they ran it back. Echo did, and I'm like, this is, a Hot Flash have to think it's an opportunity missed to take a win in the series and be one
They
and one
played
in the
them. They
groups.
played them week one.
Yep.
I'm literally gonna read my own recap about it. Hold on.
Ah, there you go. Freeze time, by the way.
Freeztime.ca. Yeah, please,
There you
please
go.
check it out. I do a weekly recap, and then this week we might have Benny do one because I'm gonna be on vacation for the weekend.
Yeah, and I'll be up at 2 a.m. doing the OC Cash Cup, and you'll be like, "Can you type it
Can
for
you
me
type
tonight?"
this for me?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, actually, Echo was dominant on Inferno. 10-5 half start.
Okay,
It
but
did
there was
not.
a there was a maybe they went down late in the second half. I think something like that. Because I remember tuning in the stream, it was like 12:10 Hot Flash or something like that. Was it
That
map
might have been.
two?
That would have been map.
Oh,
That would have been map one, which was Overpass. Overpass
oh
had a scoreline of
yes,
16-13. Inferno was
yes,
16-9. So,
yes, yes, yes.
anyways, looking at this, the Hot Flash squad we expected to get has not shown up, and that opens the door for Echo to show what they are, which is right now the better team, objectively speaking, and
Yeah, I
they've
mean they're
won
not
the
a bad
game.
team at all.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So I like what I'm seeing from Echo. I like that they were a qualifier team. They had to go twice because they lost the first time around to Saints, came back in, showed no mistake. We are going to be one of these teams. Great. That's perfect. That is what you want out of your third
yeah,
place, fourth place team. You want someone who's going to show that grit to keep coming back and keep going. And I know how sad it was when Low Fidelity with Folly on it when they failed to I think they were calling themselves Sigma at the time when they failed to qualify the first time around. How
yeah.
gutted they were because it was literally they didn't register until like they didn't sign in.
They didn't check
They
in.
didn't
Yeah,
check in, and that was the whole like it was basically free, right? Because it was you would get because it was season one, they were getting 4 spots
yeah.
for a
They
qualifier.
would have been the fourth team in a 3-spot
It
qualifier.
was
Yeah.
crazy. So, or no, it was 5 teams, and because they didn't go in, there was only 4. So all 4 of those automatically qualified. There was no match. It's
Oh yeah, you're
crazy.
right. You're right. You're right.
So
Yeah.
I love to see the success coming out of them. I really am interested to see kind of who I want to see. Please send Box versus EG. I want to see what that match does because listen that series will never those games will never be bad at this point. They'll never be bad. There's not a
Oh
clear
yeah.
there's not a clear better team because it swaps. You'll have we had cash cups before ESL or before Impact season 2 where Box was the better team. And now it's the opposite where EG has won the most recent won the most recent match in Cash Cup and won the most recent match in ESL Impact League season 2. So
Yeah.
it's
It,
going to be a back and forth.
it's one of those things you saw back then. They were the little box,
Yeah.
but that you saw the little box in the cash cups beating Police and Help. But then in a playoff series to get to Dallas, Police and
They
Help
still
got
have
their
one.
first win.
Yeah.
And it's like the MIBRB4 story. It's like, okay, Box have had the upper hand, but the big one, the biggest one of those series, Police and Help takes.
Yeah.
And they go to Dallas. And they play well at Dallas. They finished 5th, 6th for a
Boom.
pug team, the only unsigned team at Dallas, by the way.
Yeah.
And they finished 5th, 6th.
There you
Okay.
go.
And team goes through all the changes, right? There was all that stuff.
Yeah.
But you get the summer cash cups and the Bucks are winning again. And they're winning, 2 in a row, 3 in a row. And now the last 2 series they've played, police EG as they are now. We're gonna ignore it.
Yep.
Uh, have won, and every single series, bar the one that Yuli stand in for, or stood in for, um, every single series has been insanely close, had an overtime in it, stuff like that, right? And it's like, okay, I understand. You know, you had Yuli stand in for the box, incredible player. Hope she comes back to CS whenever she's done her break, and
Yeah.
just really, really good player, like a very, very good player who's been playing for years. I mean, even before she was on CLG, she's very young as well. By the way, she's like 21, I want to say 22. So it's one of those things where, like, and before she was on CLG, like pre-19, like she was playing in Maine and things like that for teams, like very good player. Um, so yeah, that series wasn't close, but you could excuse it with the sub or the stand-in. I mean, every series. I remember asking Milk in the chat on that first week. I said, Milk, you poor soul. Why don't you catch the VOD? Is it a time difference
Because of the
between
time
him and
difference. Yeah.
North America? And he's like, this is EG and box, man. I can't miss this.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the mindset going into that to any series they play is just we have to block out 4 hours to watch this because it's
You
just
have to
going to
be there.
be incredible.
Yeah.
It's just not going to not be incredible.
There's never a dull moment between those two. So that's the internal struggle between them. And I mean, the expectation is they're going to be facing off against each other, and it's literally like it's the same thing as it's in the Brazilian side. It's the same thing as in the EU side. Which one of us ends up being the 2B that has to face off against the 1A in CLG Red?
Yep.
And you got to be that 1B. You got to be that 1B if you want to make it. It's
and the
so
advantage is
crazy.
The advantage is with EG. So if they take that second series,
Boom.
They've dodged CLG pretty much.
Yeah. So that's NA. That's everything really on the recap. It's been a crazy first 2 weeks of season 2. It's been a crazy month. It's been a crazy year in terms of female CS. We're kind of getting towards the ending stages here. We have a great finisher here, Benny. What are you going to be watching over these next 2 weeks?
Why don't you go first? Because I want to load up femalecs.com while you do that, actually. So you talk about what you're looking forward to. I'm going to load up femalecs.com.
I am looking forward to, and I'm wholly NA on this entire focus. I am looking forward to the next 2 weeks of ESL Impact, getting the write-ups done on that. I'm looking forward to the Cash Cup this weekend to see kind of where more teams are at, because some teams didn't play this weekend, which was kind of unfortunate. We'll kind of see where that goes. I'm also really, really, really looking forward to the playoffs, because I believe CLG Red has qualified for main playoffs. I don't know where. I don't think EG qualified for IM. They were in intermediate.
Yeah.
I don't think they qualified for intermediate playoffs, but I do believe Please Send Box qualified for open playoffs. So
yeah, they were on a tear.
There's a few teams in playoffs right now that I really, really want to keep up with and see kind of where they go in terms of the ESEA league standings, because CLG Red, they were one of the first teams in advance. Like, for the longest time, a lot of players were like, why are CLG Red here when my team was objectively better? But then they outlasted those teams in advance for a very long time. It's only recent that they've dropped down into main, and a lot of that was just because of I don't even want to say it was roster issues. I just think they didn't really care about the league as much, which is not a dig against the players at all. It's just one of those things of like they were always kind of middle bottom advanced, and eventually kind of happened where they didn't make it, so they got relegated, and now they're on their way back.
Evil Geniuses finished 3-9, so they did not qualify, but they stayed in intermediate.
Yeah, which is great. Right? That's you're above the dredge that is open, and listen, but if you talk to any player who plays through ESEA Open, it is just, it's a crap show every single time.
I mean, yeah, but most of these teams play in Open.
Yeah.
So even like in Europe, I think Nigma, the only ones like Nigma's like maybe one of 2 or 3 that are in Open or intermediate. I mean, everybody else is in Open. So
I mean, and that's not a dig against the players, right? It's just literally
no,
like anything and everything happens in open.
yeah.
And
It's the scheduling I think is a lot tougher because you could get matched up against a million different other teams.
yeah.
So it's like, like when you're in advanced, for example, and you're like say when you were CLG in advanced and you're like you're 4-4 in a 14 game season, like you're gonna get paired up against somebody either 5-4, 4-4, 3-4, maybe a 3-5 team, like you know what I mean. Whereas like if you're in open and you start the season 5-0, guess what? Here's another 5-0 team for you. Here's a 6-0 team for you. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's just the scheduling. I feel like is just a little bit more unforgiving in the lower divisions because you are going to have to play teams that are with the exact same record, and some of those teams could be well on their way to finishing the season like 11-1, and you're over here at 5-0 with a great start, going fantastic. Let's try to make playoffs, and boom, here you go. Here's your reward.
So, good news. Police Sandbox have played their first playoff match in Open, and they've won it. So
Good,
they're still in the running, which is good. We like that.
good,
They are, yeah, they're one of the 64 teams that have won a match.
yeah.
And that's at 192 playoff teams in
182,
Open. 182?
182. Yeah, because it'd be 64.
No, there's 192 teams in Open playoffs right now, according
Oh,
to the list.
oh, okay, all right, yeah, I
Some
know why.
matches haven't
Okay,
been played.
right, yeah,
Da,
yeah,
da, da,
yeah,
da.
yeah.
So,
Gotcha, I gotcha.
but that's what I'm looking forward to. So I'm looking forward to seeing the playoff matches. And even though some of them don't know, I do tend to look in on the ESA pages and watch their matches. I'm one of the viewer counts in the top corner.
Yeah,
I
the
don't
viewer
tell them.
one, and it's you.
It's me a
There you
lot of
go.
the time. I watch the
There you go.
games and I don't say anything because it's like, hey, I watched your match, great job. Like, and who cares? A bunch of people
Yeah,
watch
maybe
matches. I
maybe
my
next season. I was
expectations.
supposed to cast them this season, so apology to all the teams I announced I was going to cover and didn't cover last month, by the way. But like, just this month
So
has been
much,
crazy.
so much.
Well, it's this month has been crazy, but maybe starting next season, I'll definitely pick that up again. So,
Yeah, no, for sure.
so, but for me, what I'm watching, real quick, just to end
Oh
on the
yeah, yeah.
podcast, um, I'm watching like the same thing, pretty much. This is the next 2 weeks of ESL Impact. We have we have a big one in South America. That's B4 MIBR. Week 3 is
Ooh.
B4 MIBR. That is the matchup to watch for me. I think those two are going to be. I think it's going to be a slugfest. So I'm really looking forward to that one. Um, I like all the players in MIBR too. So I hate to say this. I mean this with no disrespect, but go B4.
There you go.
So there you go.
There
Benny
you
bias.
go.
Hashtag Benny bias.
That's the bias right there. All right, thank
But
you.
go B4.
There you go.
And I think whoever wins, it's going to be like EG and Box. They're going to have a massive advantage in the groups. So
Awesome. There we go.
that's what I'm looking forward to.
Benny, one last thing. Can you please turn around and show whose name is on the back of your jersey?
I was going to take the jersey off because turning around is tough. But,
Whatever works. Whatever works.
okay. Okay. We got the
We got the drip.
Jessicas.
We got the drip.
We got the Jessicas.
There we go. All right, perfect. He can't hear me, but I can hear him. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here and watching us. Thank you very much for lending us your time. Have a great night, and whatever you're doing, I hope it goes well. And see you in the next few weeks. Bye bye.